And now the most important part that you were probably looking for, it is a demonstration of experience when customizing a report. I will use purchase order as example. Some of that experience was already demonstrated during the previous webinars, but they were purely educational webinars, while this one is a bit of a marketing one. Here we want to compare side by side the experience with Microsoft Excel Designer for CBD documents and Docentric Designer. I will first demonstrate how working with MS Excel as template designer looks like. You may wonder why I chose Microsoft Excel for the demonstration. Well, I tried to have a fair comparison, therefore I picked the most powerful of the three possibilities that Microsoft enabled, that is Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, and PDF. We will discuss this in more detail later, but for now, trust me, this is as good as it gets with CBD designers. You can start working with the Microsoft Excel Designer from two different workspaces. One is Electronic Reporting Workspace, and another is Business Document Management Workspace. And by doing so, you will get completely different experience. If you remember from our last webinar, Alpine referred to them as Old Way, that would be Electronic Reporting Workspace, and a New Way, that would be Business Document Management Workspace. New Way, aside from being newer, is still buggy, and that is why Albin wasn't able to demonstrate using it. None of these two ways is ideal. For merely adding the new fields to the design, it is better to use Business Documents Workspace because it will be less confusing and has less of an overhead. This approach is using Excel Online, which is better integrated with the D365 form for adding the fields. On the other hand, for any other kind of modifying the existing design, which requires maintenance of the named ranges, you will need the desktop version of Excel, which you will open from this or from the electronic reporting workspace. Also, analyzing the existing bindings and ranges only makes sense with the desktop version of Excel. After this introduction, let's start with the Business Documents workspace. So let's see what do we have on my cloud VM. I select this purchase order template derived from Microsoft. We created a new revision. Here we see a preview and we can edit the template. Why isn't anything happening? Aha, I made a mistake, but you will be making it as well. I need to open another browser tab and I need to sign into Office Online. Why? Well, because. Now, if I go back, I should be able to work. I didn't make this mistake intentionally, but now I'm happy that I did because it was the best way of demonstrating the user experience. Notice that I didn't get any kind of warning that I should be signed in to Office Online. I was probably supposed to be signed in automatically, but it wasn't the case. Now edit template. I get it here. First, see this usability. We have this template on the most part of the screen, and here on the right side we have this tiny narrow window where you're able to check your template data source structure. If you were opening the template from Electronic Reporting Workspace, you would get the print management form style where you would be specifying your bindings. What I don't like about this form is that I don't have a way to make the template structure window a little larger. I would like to extend it to 1/2 of the screen, but it is not possible. Okay, here we kind of see the structure of our Excel. It is listed here. First, sheet. Sheet is basically everything we have in the design. Now we have sub-ranges, for example, header. The bad thing is you're not able to select a range in the template structure and get it selected in the template. That would be my expectation, but no, you can't do that. Then in a header, you would have some cells. This is still a mystery to me how these 3 cells came to the design, but let's move on. Let's move further to the sub-ranges. Company info. it has all these cells. The cells are all named ranges and they are rendered in the lines from top to the bottom and then within each line from left to the right. Now, if we analyze the range for the company info, we first see this cell for the company address. And here you kind of see its name. It doesn't actually fit into this space. That is because this is online Excel and you can't extend this field where the range names are displayed. I will show you the same experience with this desktop Excel. I will switch to my local VM. I will open the purchase order design. Here we see the mappings, and I have already opened the Excel design. Let's see it in the parallel. This is how you would analyze the existing design. You would here on the left side see the range header. Then I go to Excel. See how here now I can modify the size of the field where the ranges are displayed. Good thing is that the ranges are sorted in an alphabetic order. You open it and search for the header range. Here it is, and in the design you see immediately the whole header range selected. That is the experience I am missing with the online Excel. And that is how I analyzed and learned about these ER models and CBD formats by using the desktop Excel. But, as I already said, adding fields is a better experience from that other workspace, Business Documents Management. Let's see how it goes. I need to position a cursor into the cell where I want to add a new content. In this cell, I want to add a mapping to one of the fields from the data source. Now, if I just click here, Add, I might get the unpredicted results. That's what happened to Albin during the last webinar, and that's why he reverted to the so-called old way. But while searching the net, I found one suggestion that seems to work better. While in this cell, press F2. You see how it kind of becomes even more selected. Now that it is really selected, I usually get the results. So now here, say Add, and now I can say Cell. I have to specify the name. And this is the number one thing I hate about this solution. You cannot simply say, bring me something here, but no, you have to say how this particular cell will be named. And here it is a good practice to keep the convention with the names, so I will start with company info. Then I want to add something related to bank. Let's start with the name. And let's see what will happen. Yes, we got the new field. Cursor was in a cell which is at the end of the company info range, and that is why I got it at the end of a list on the right side. On the other hand, if the cursor was in a cell somewhere in the middle of the company info range, then it would appear here also in the middle of the template structure on the right side. That is a good thing and is another reason why this is a better experience than with the desktop Excel. If you were using desktop Excel, the newly added field would always appear at the bottom of the list on the right side, no matter where the cursor was positioned. And then you would need to manually push it up until it reaches the position you need. That is a bad thing about the experience with desktop Excel. Notice that adding just this one field lasted about 10 seconds. Not great for the productivity, I would say. Now I have to provide the binding. I need to say from where to bind the value. Now, do you think it is intuitive? I really don't. We would go here. No, we would go here and say show bindings. Now we will see something very similar to the structure of the Docentric designer, the fields above and the bindings below. We want to point to purchase, buyer, that is our company, then party and bank account. Here I have a field name and I need to say bind. Did he do it? I will save and see what is going to happen. I think you feel now a little bit of this pain together with me. Notice when I go outside of this range and then back to it, now it has a name here in the list of available ranges. If I unroll the range list, I will see a name of the new range. It wasn't previously selected. Why should it be selected? It would be a good user experience. I will also add some dummy names similar to what Microsoft did with other fields that should give me an idea which content will be displayed here. I will write bank name, go out to it and save everything. To make sure that next time when I run the report this template will be used, I will add some color to this field so that I can easily distinguish between the previous and the current version. So let's see what is going to happen when I run this report. I will go back from this screen. I see in preview here a new version, and we have configured that a draft can run, so this design should be applied. Before I run the report, I will go into the purchase order print management to check the settings. We have this Excel CBD format, which means that the execution will go through CBD. That is what I wanted to achieve. I won't configure any electronic reporting destination because the default ER destination is file, and that's good for testing. See how here I don't have anything configured for purchase order, which means that the default ER destination file will be used. Let's check that. As you can see, this lasts for a long time, so this doesn't seem to be right. So I will try it once again. Still rolling, but aha, now we got something. So one more point for that bug icon on my slide. We finally got the file. Let's see it. I expect to get that blue cell, but don't be surprised, there will be no value. Why is that? Let's now go to my development environment. It will be easier for me to explain this there. I will open the model mapping for this report to check where this bank name comes from. In purchase, buyer, party, bank account, name, this name is bound to at something. If you don't know what this at is, click this edit and here you will see that at is among the variables purchase order header, which is a SSRS temporary table for the purchase order header. Basically, Microsoft has kept all the SSRS report data sources and has built the ER models around them. Let's now see how this field is filled. So I will go on the left side to find this name field. And now why doesn't this work? This is a standard Microsoft implementation of this data model. I just wanted to use what was provided by Microsoft and it's not working. So I needed to go into Visual Studio to see what is the reason that this is not working, where and how this field is filled with the data. So much about not needing a developer. In Visual Studio, I opened the code for this temporary table. There's this method here, init from company info on blank paper. And notice that name field is filled only for the Czech localization. So if you're listening to me from Czech Republic and you try to do this at home, you will get the result. Everyone else won't. What do we need to do to fix this missing value? We need to find the company bank account, which comes from the bank account table, which comes from the company info. Therefore, we should specify the same type of the relations. You can specify your relations through formulas, and it is quite complex. I was hoping to find something simpler. And there is this calculated field added on the top of the existing SSRS report data source. It represents the company. So I need this company and I need these relations. Follow the directions of these arrows. This one is N to 1 and we need it. If you unroll these relations, the system will generate all the relations for you and you need to scroll down and try to find what you need. And now notice this, I found these 3 bank accounts. So how do you figure out what you need? I clicked the first one and here below I saw the relation. And that relation was exactly what I needed, what I saw from this code. So I said, great, let's use it. Now you have to scroll and find the field you're looking for. The fields here are sorted by their names or by their labels, whatever they have, so it can be tricky to find them. You can also search for the expression you are looking for, but because name is such a common expression, it wouldn't probably be very efficient. Now, while this field is selected on the left side and its counterpart on the right side, click the Bind button here on the top. First, I was young and naive and I immediately tried to print this, but I got the errors, so I figured out that before printing, I should have done validate. And if we do it now, we will get this validation error. If you don't do it here, you will get the same error in runtime. Then I figured out that there is another bank account with, guess what, exactly the same relation here below. So I repeated the process with that one, selected a name, now the validator doesn't report any error and this model can be executed. What can we conclude from this? Testing and debugging is not going to be a simple process. Once you have something in your design, you often need to modify it. For example, you don't want this new field here, but let's say we want it here. You will have to create a new range, so you can't simply copy-paste this field. And the new range cannot have the same name as the existing range. You need to repeat the whole procedure, but then the original range will remain in the template and you can't remove it. In order to remove it, you need the desktop Excel and the menu item formulas, name manager, where you will find your range and delete it. There is really no smooth process here. Next thing, very important. Many of our clients tell us we want to have the bank information in the footer. What is here footer? Can you tell me, please? There is no concept of header and footer. Everything is one long document. You can only say, I will put it here at the bottom, and it will be printed at the end of the other content, but you can't control if it is going to be exactly at the bottom, nor can it be repeated at the bottom of each page if you will have more pages. Even more important, what about the document header? You can't say, this is my header and I want it repeated at the top of each page, because Excel is not aware of the pages. Then you can't simply move the elements, not to talk about adding the columns. Let's add the grids. They will immediately give you a correct feeling, or better said, understanding, that everything is one large table. You know, you will always want to add columns to your lines. If you go here and insert a new column, everything is shifted to the right, and you don't want that. You can only go into the table where you want to add a new column, and cell by cell go and split them. Next big thing, grouping, formatting, conditional showing or hiding. None of this can be done here in the designer because it is simply not a designer. It is not a specialized template designer tool, but it is a spreadsheet tool. So all these things you achieve by preparing your data in a way you need it, and you do it here. And this is very, very inconvenient. Let's show a few examples. Here in the format designer for purchase order, but in a format configuration form in D365, let's see one thing. This is purchase order. I know that it has some rules for showing or hiding the content built here. I'm looking for some question marks, but I can't seem to find them. Aha, I should go here into a mapping menu. Why didn't I see the question marks before, but I needed to go into this mapping view? I really don't see a reason except that nobody thought about the usability of these forms. And let's see now what these question marks mean. They say that this content will be conditionally shown or hidden based on some criteria. Based on which criteria? Can you tell where you should set that criteria? I will give you a few seconds to search for the answer on this form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where is it? Here it is, at the very bottom. If first this value is not 0, then the range purchase order values should be visible. So you specify the conditions here, but they will be applied here in Excel. And that is not the worst part. The worst thing that I have seen is on PSA project invoice. Let's check this format, how it looks like. That's a beauty. You know that in the standard SSRS PSA project invoice, you get all the lines related to the invoice, and then in the design you do with them whatever you want. You group them, sort them, etc. Because that can be done in Excel, you need to prepare the data here. And here, trust me, it is so complicated. There is this project list. See how this looks like. If you want to be really scared, go here, View and View Formula, and see this formula. It says, give me all transactions that are related to this project and are of these types, employee cost, etc. If you're familiar with the content of PSA project invoice report, then you know what I'm talking about. But that is not the end of the complication. Let's unroll this structure. Look at this beauty. See this group by group by group by. Here they are saying in a very inconvenient way what to group and how, and what do we want as a final aggregation result. I will now stop scaring you with the designer. And let me conclude with our opinion that it is extremely complicated with the poor user experience. Data handling is split between the format configuration, this form, and the template designer Excel. Template designer is not a real template designer, but a spreadsheet tool. Testing and debugging requires developer, and so on and on.